We are on live.
Okay. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to this session of Let Us Talk It Webinars. We are extremely excited to bring a new topic each day. Almost we have covered all the days of the week. We only Monday and Friday is what is missing right now. But we have these webinars, professional webinars, very much related to work and life, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays from 12 to 1 p.m. EST. And on Saturdays from 4 to 5 p.m. EST is our Let Us Talk It Youth webinars. And if you like this session, if you have any comments, feedback, please do put it in the YouTube comment section, and we'll definitely take your questions, comments, feedback at the end of the session. And as far as our youth webinars are concerned, we have our practice session every Tuesday and Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. EST. And then we have the final live webinar on Saturday, 4 to 5 p.m. So, without any further ado, I need to introduce today's topic. We always say it's work and life related topics is what we cover in Let Us Talk It webinars. And here today we have a topic which is a beautiful blend of two, I guess. He has put in professionalism, motivation, and he has put in a topic where it leads to, I mean, involves poetry, creativity, and all of that. So it will be a very, very, I must say, an interesting session. The topic for today is life and integration of one verse at a time. A 5C model of decision drivers to live your passion using verses. What can be better than having poetry in your life and enjoying and disciplining and improving your life? And to speak on this special topic, we have with us Satya Prakash. And Satya Prakash, he is an integrated marketer, passionate about growth and strategy, currently pursuing PGDM from IMT Nagpur. And he strongly believes that a true marketer is not only the one who successfully markets himself, but also creates a win win space. Hence, he's a consistent practitioner of synergic personal branding. And one thing that he believes is productivity to the vision of people through unlocking human potentials. So we are absolutely intrigued by what he has to offer. Without any further ado, let's start the session. A very warm welcome, Satya. Over to you.
Thank you, Jhulan. Thank you so much. So I'll be sharing the screen right away, right?
Yes, please.
Yes. So thank you so much, Jhulan, for such an overwhelming, introduction. So first of all, I have an immense pleasure and a great excitement to be here. And for that, I would like to pay my deepest gratitude to the entire team of Let Us Talk It for, giving me this privilege to, be in services as a speaker today. And so thank you so much, the entire team of Let Us Talk It. And secondly, to each and every person, a big shout out to each and every person who is there across different domains in Facebook or in LinkedIn or in Zoom app or in YouTube. So a big shout out to you guys as well for supporting me. And yes, so as rightly said by Jhulan, I'll have my short, crisp introduction in 4 lines. I'm, yes, a marketer by profession and a keynote speaker by passion, a poet by choice, and a practical practitioner by life. So that basically defines me. So yes, 7 days back, what really happened when I had a conversation with Let Us Talk It team. So they just wanted to confirm me for today, which is 22nd, right? So I had a challenge in front of me because from tomorrow onwards, I have series of examinations which is going to be scheduled. So it's a 7 or 10 days schedule from tomorrow onwards. So it was, a bit challenging for me to decide whether how to go about it. And at that point of time, one of a quote from one of my friend that popped up in my head, that if you are not living in age, probably you are taking too much of a space. So that popped up in my head, and I took decision right away that okay, I have to jump off this space from the comfort zone, and that's the very reason that I got this opportunity to cater you guys on behalf of today's theme, which is life and integration of one verse at a time. So that is there. And yes, you know a lot of inquiries came for what is this life and integration of one verse at a time. People were asking constantly from the last 7 days that what is the theme all about, what you are trying to reflect out of it. So I tried to, I try to debrief it first of all. So it's basically, I'll try to debrief it by using my own verses, my own poetries, not the conventional ones for sure, but it will be, I'll make the session much more learning, yet a joyful session for you. So but that for that to happen, I need your assistance, and assistance in the form of your attention. So that is one thing I'm relating with you guys, and I hope that we'll make this a productive session altogether. So that is there. And yes, to start with, so this life and integration of one verse at a time, it it is itself a poetry, and this is the first line of poetry. So I'll be defining the theme, life and integration of one verse at a time, by using the poetry itself. There is one request from each and every person out there, that while I'll be reading out certain lines in the slides, try to sync in the pace of reading with what I'm trying to say. So that will give me a short little space to earn your attention. So do follow that. It will make you much more engaging. So that's there. With that, I guess I should move forward to introduce the first poetry, which will define the theme of it: life and integration of one verse at a time. Yes. So to start, life and integration of one verse at a time, where verses are small discrete steps to climb. With each step you take, there is a challenge too. Either you love what you do, or do what you love to do. This is a juncture, is a decision between easy and tough. It's up to you to decide a bluff or a rough. Now let's try and look it out from the poet's point of view, right? Life and integration of one verse at a time. Now, what poet is trying to say, life is segmented into different phases. It starts with childhood, then we convert it into, then we grow up, it turns into adolescence, then it converts into, adult. There we hook up with a lot of responsibilities in our head, in our back. We get married, we get into parenting, then the grandparenting. So this responsibilities, this phases keeps on evolving in life, right? So these are segmented. And what really happens by verses, it does not really implicate only the verses, the poetries. Here, verse is signifying the small, discrete, small things in life which actually matters, such as verses, poetries are one of them, obviously. Along with that, there are songs, there are music, there are innovation. What truly, where the eccentricity of life lies, where we can really see the beauty of life exists. So the entire simulation of all those small things, I'm trying to simulate it with one word, that is verse. So what really happens, these small verses are, the discrete, these works as a small discrete steps basically to climb that phase of life, the different phases of life. These helps to, as a discrete steps to face, to sustain that particular I would say that particular the phase of life. What really happens, with each step you take, there is a challenge too. Now this is very certain, my dear friends, that life always demands a better version of ourselves, a bigger version of ourselves. But then what is really important is, there is always a set of challenges associated to that step. And that's where you define yourself, when how you are reflecting back to your challenges. Most of us in the community, most of us are really not loving their work. They are simply challenging, they are simply facing the challenges, because it's a requirement. It's simply a requirement. They are doing it just for the sake of doing it, not because they want to, right? But then this is really important, that either you love what you do or do what you love to do, because there are person who start loving what they do, and then comes the 1% of people, the creamy layer of this world, who actually do what they truly love. That's where they discover their own path. So that is there. But now what poet is really trying to say, it seems as if it's a juncture. Now by juncture, it seems as if you are standing at the Y point and there is a decision, right? Till now, what poet is simply telling you what is really it all about. But now the poet is trying to show you, throw a particular question in front of you, a situation, that it's a juncture point, it's a decision where you have to decide whether you will be taking a easy path, a conventional one where people are really going, or whether it's a tough path, right, to discover your own path. So it's the decision is up to you. And by bluff or by rough, now by bluff, I'm trying to say, the conventional path, they might be successful, right? They are very much wealthier, but the real challenge, the real beauty lies in the joy, the happiness they carry, right? So they might be very successful, but somewhere down the line, they bluff to their own selves, because their strategy to face the challenge is not discovering their own path. They are simply carried away in the flow. But the other one, which is rough phase, which is definitely going to tough, where we have to discover our own path, which sometimes people also call it as passion. So that is there where you actually do what you really love. So that is the theme. It's about the decisions that we take in our lives at different phases of point. Now that brings me to a very interesting story of a 5-year child whose name is Mark. So this child was very curious, very intelligent, had some good vision in his eyes, and he was really passionate about his own stuff from the very childhood. So this guy wanted to become Bill Gates from the very childhood. Probably when I was 5, I was puncturing someone else's cycle. But this guy was really passionate about his own, the stuffs that he want to become in life. So what really happened, one fine day, a teacher came and teacher said him to write an essay on his role model. Now this guy went back home, came back the next day his school, and the teacher asked him to go on stage and read whatever he has written about his role model. So this guy went to the stage and he said simply just 2 lines. The first one is, my role model is Bill Gates. And secondly, I wanted to become Bill Gates. That's it. Only a 2-line essay on his role model. Now, when his teacher has seen it, she yelled at him and then mocked it. That is it becoming Bill Gates is like learning any country music, or is it whether you can actually is it like learning some butterfly skills in swimming? Is it so easy? So she actually restricted him, and the entire class mocked at him. So that was the one phase which actually got hit to this guy. But this guy still had the vision in his eyes, and that thing is still there in his mind. So years passed, days passed, he evolved, and with his persistent ability, he was able to actually outstand among the people in the in the community. So with all those skills and ability, he went into Harvard School for his undergrads. And there, one fine day, what really happened, a news came out from the auditorium that Bill Gates is really going to see all the undergrads of Harvard University. So this guy really got excited that, okay, this is an opportunity where I can really see my role model. This is the best opportunity where I can experience my role model, that is Bill Gates. So that thing happened, and the D-Day came. Gates simply delivered the speech, and very formally, the entire the session has been open for question and answer round towards end. So the people were really excited along with this guy as well. So Gates was really bombarded with a lot of questions at that time, and this guy had also some questions, but he was sitting on the penultimate row of the entire auditorium, very nervous. Yet he had so many questions, but he wasn't really asked yet. Why that happened? Because at one point of time, yes, it was an opportunity for him. It was a great opportunity to experience his role model. He was excited, yet he was very nervous and frightened. And that thing simply, made his nerves go cold. At that point of time, while tackling all those questions, Gates simply said, after a series of question answer, he said that, okay, so I'm up for the last question. And then at that point of time, this guy, sitting at the penultimate row, gathered all his courage at one place and raised his hand slowly. And then Gates said that, okay, go on, boy. And this guy asked the same question. I wanted to become Bill Gates. I want to become Bill Gates. So what should I do in order to become Bill Gates? How can I become Bill Gates? Now the entire face of the people sitting in the auditorium simply shifted towards him, as if she had asked for his daughter for a date. So, and within no second, from pin dropped silence of the auditorium, it turned into, it burst into laughter. And everyone again mocked at him. Even Gates smiled at him. But then, after having a pause, Gates replied that in order to become Bill Gates, you will discover a path, you will follow a path which has been discovered by someone else long ago. And many are gone in the same path to follow it, but not actually sustained at that level. So if you really want to mark your presence in the history, or you really want to put your name as excellence in the history, you have to discover your own path. Now here's a learning, my dear champions out there, all the leaders out there. Here's the learning that when he was 5 years old, what his leader tried to do, she simply restricted his into the boundaries that, okay, this might be your vision, but the teacher simply yelled at him. They restricted him. But here, Gates, what he did, he pushed him to go beyond the boundaries, to actually let him discover our own path. So this is the learning point, all my dear leaders out there right now, that as a leader, your job, your challenge is to push the community to go beyond the boundaries, not to restrain within the boundaries, right? So that is the real challenge out here. Now, coming back to the story, this words of wisdom, it worked as a magical spree for this guy. And 15 years down the line, we all know this guy as Mark Zuckerberg, the only, the social media giant of the world. He has been like the CEO and founder of a lot of social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and whatnot, right? So that brings us to one keyword. He made the decision, right? He made the decision there itself that, okay, I will discover my own path rather than simply going into, where the crowd is going. I'm going to discover it right here, right away. He made that decision. So what is the, decision? There is one very famous quote by, Ralph Waldo. He's one of the most famous American letterist and a very, a very famous, reputed poet, that once he said that once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. The energies in the universe assist you to make it happen. The only thing you need is to make the decision to discover your own path in life. So, my dear ladies and gentlemen, all the leaders out there, from the last 10 or 15 minutes, we are constantly talking about, decisions. So there must be some parameters, right, which insist us, which pushes us to take the decision in the different phases of life. It could be anything, it could be anything, whether it's discovering your own path or not discovering, or simply following into someone else's path. Doesn't really matter. But to take that decision, there must be some drivers, right? There must be some parameters which insist us to take the decision. So here I am with a 5C model. So, to arrive at a particular decision, there are certain parameters, and these are 5Cs. And I am here to introduce the 5C model in front of you. So there's one thing that I want to really say, that, how we'll be going about this 5C model. So what I'll be doing, I'll be, reciting, I'll be telling you one of my poetries, and then we'll try to, extract out that C, that keyword, that driver, right? And then we'll have a deep dive into that C. Okay, so that will be our flow. Okay, But then to again, I'll say that this is not going to be a conventional poetry. This is something where it's been discovered within the path. So I'll make sure that this is going to be a joyful and interesting one. So to introduce the first C, here we go with the first poetry. Yeah. So our mind works in coupling with abundant resources of information juggling. We are slaves of our consequences. Memory and imagination are the faculties of our inferences. Now let's try to look it out from the poet's point of view. The entire universe, the first line, our mind works in coupling. The entire universe works in certain or some or other kind of pattern. Earth is revolving around in some or other kind of pattern. Human interaction is in some pattern. We talk in some kind of pattern. We walk in some kind of pattern. Even our hair grow in some or other kind of pattern, right? So there is everything existing in this universe has some or other kind of pattern involved with it, right? Very similarly, mind also works in pattern. And what is this pattern? It works in coupling. And coupling with what? With consequences, because consequences drives us. We are the slaves of our consequences, my dear friends. Now, how this consequence actually, the question arises is how this consequences build in our mind, right? Which is very much explained in the second line of the verse, that with abundant resources of information juggling. Now, there's another key point, right? That we already know. The entire universe, the entire world is it's a simulation of different data points, right? I am talking right now, it's an information, there's a data point. Even when we are talking with someone, even when we are not talking, we are simply observing the universe or the world. There is again some data points, the information has been generated, right? So that is there. So these are the abundant resources of information juggling in this, the entire mind, which certainly pops to, it adds to the awareness. Now mind the keyword awareness here. Now the question arises, leaders, that how this awareness is really built up, right? So for that, there is last line, memory and imagination are faculties of inferences. Now this is really important because there is a model attached to it. There are some things which pumps the awareness. Now this is it. This is the model for perception of consequence, how the consequences build up, how this data point, how the awareness is built up. So there are three things. Memory and imagination are the faculties of our inferences. Now mark my words that, by memory, I want to say it as experience, the past experiences we have. And by imagination, I'm talking about the belonging of future sense, the consciousness of future sense. So both these things simply add into awareness. Now, the real trick here is, it's not that with our past experiences we build awareness. It's a two-way round model. With awareness also sometimes we build the experience. Same goes with the imagination as well. Sometimes what really happens, we imagine something and that certainly adds to our awareness. But sometimes it happens the other way around as well, right? So I'll give you a short little example. Okay, so we all are here right now in this platform because we have some perception of consequence that, okay, LetUsTalkIt is conducting a webinar, so there must be something, some value addition. So mind it, there is a set of positive consequences in our mind that this session might be a productive one. This session can add values to us, right? Now debriefing it, there must be some person out here who are already aware about this webinar, right? And then you are here to experience it. Whereas some person might be here who have already experienced the webinar earlier, and then it pops up into their awareness. Similarly, it happens with the imagination. There must be some person there might be some person who are already aware about that. So they have simply, their belongingness of future sense made that imagination to build a perception of consequence. So it works in a triology, my dear friends. So what, I'll have a short, quick activity as well. It would have been much better if we were physically present, but since it's a digital media. So what I really want you guys, across different domains, whosoever are, to all the leaders out there who are live right now, I want you guys to write these 4 keywords: memory, imagination, awareness and consequence right here, right away in the chat box or in comment box, because this writing these keywords is going to create the experience for the consequences, and this will let us to start seeing the world with the lens of consequence. So I want you guys to shoot it down right here, right away, create an experience right here. This will always gives you an edge. I want you guys to see you there. So take 10 seconds, consume it, and write it down. So, okay. So I want the comment box and the chat section to be flooded with your comments. So yes, now comes the challenge, my dear leaders. Sometimes what really happens, we feel very much controlled by the consequences, but sometimes we feel liberated by the consequences. So there must be something, right, which actually makes us enjoy the work, and sometimes we feel captivated by that work, right? So that brings us to the second C, which is choice. Now here we go with the second verse, that success seekers are not controlled by consequences. Failure avoiders pay the expenses. Choices are waiting for you to admire, face the dire or lit the fire. Now here it is, what poet is really trying to say. He's categorizing, basically the poet is trying to subject it, subtend it into two categories of success seeker and a failure avoider, right? Success seeker are those who come out of their own willingness, right? And failure avoiders are probably those who are into the system as a requirement, that what I have earlier said about it, the people are really doing it for the sake of environment, because someone has told them to do it, get it done, not because they are willing to get it done, right? So that has been defined. When you categorize yourself as a success seeker, you are not controlled by the consequences, but you when you roll as a failure avoider, you pay the expenses, and that expenses is, you might be successful, you might be wealthier, but you miss the really joy, the ecstaticity of the life. You miss that. You have to pay that expense. So that is there, and choices are always there to admire you, right? If you perceive choice, which actually substance you to create your own path, then you lit the fire inside you. Otherwise, certainly you are going to face the dire. So that brings us to the choice dilemma. Now here comes the story, my dear friends. I'm really excited to tell the stories. So what really happened in 1950, B.F. Skinner, one of the finest psychologists of the world has ever seen, what really happened back then in 1950, first class of psychology, introduction to psychology, there were 600 students in front of him, right? And he simply he entered the classroom sharp at 9:30 a.m., right? And he shooted the question, the first question that he asked from the students out there: how many of you are failure avoiders? And believe what happened. 80% of people raised their hand, 80% students raised their hands. And then probably, so these 80% lot, probably when they woke up in the morning, they must have said that, okay, I have to go to school, I have to attend the lecture. It's a requirement. Not I get to go to school, not I get to go to the lecture. It's an opportunity. So that is where the success seeker and failure avoiders are defined. When you perceive choice, there is a famous line in by Ellen Langer said in her book Mindfulness, that when you perceive choice, you perceive motivation, and that motivation helps you to categorize yourself as a success seeker or a failure avoider. When you categorize yourself as success seeker, you do not feel controlled by the consequence. But and that is very, that's very simple thing. I mean, that might seem as if it's coming out of common sense, but that I'm going to cover it later as well. So what really happens when we really enjoy what we want to do, when we do what we really enjoy, we categorize ourselves as success seeker, or else there is a lot of people, who are already there getting into the flow as failure avoiders. So that is there. And here's the deal, my dear leaders. I want you guys to categorize yourself, to write it down in the comment box or in the chat box, that whether you categorize yourself as success seeker or failure avoider. I want you guys to type it down, the keyword success seeker, failure avoider, or success seeker, where you really categorize yourself. Take 5 minutes, and I want to really see a lot of success seekers in the comment box out there. So yeah, so moving forward, you know, tell me one thing, if it would have been so easy to categorize yourself, to categorize ourselves as success seekers, probably that 1% creamy layer of the universe that would have turned into 99%, right? So to have that, to perceive that choice, we need some fuel which can actually help us to perceive that choice. We need something where we can actually perceive the choice of discovering our own path rather than going with bulk. So that brings us to the third C, which is courage. Here we go with the third poetry. Perceiving choice demands courage, the only fuel to self leverage. Accept the challenge of challenging the accepted, to cultivate the choices unselected. Now, here it is. Let's look it out from the poet's point of view, that perceiving choice demands courage. It always needs courage to do something, to perceive the choice what you want to do. It requires courage to smile. It requires courage to assist with people. It requires courage to clap alone. It requires courage to raise the hand alone. Remember that story of Mark. He simply collated all his courage at one place. It always requires courage. This courage is basically the fuel of self leverage. Now mind it, my dear leaders, this is not self leverage, this is self hyphen leverage. What it really means, leveraging your own self by igniting your by perceiving choices, and that's been well done when you fuel yourself with the courage. Now when you do so, what really happens, you accept the challenge of challenging the accepted. I really want you guys to read it out. Accept the challenge of challenging the accepted. Now what really happening, when you have that courage, you perceive the choice where you accept the challenges with the things which are really accepted in the majority, the conventional path which is already accepted. You accept the challenge to diverge from that when you have the courage. So that is there, that gives you a space to cultivate the choices unselected. The majority had left that space of unselected choices that lets you to perceive the choices in your life, that builds a possible the uncontrolled consequences in your mind. So that's the interlink out here. So that is there. And I'm pretty sure that we all are courageous enough to take the best output from this 60 minutes out here, right? So here's the challenge, my dear friends. Courage is something which can pop up at some point of time, but it drowns at some point of time. The challenge for all the leaders out there is to maintain the courage in a sustainable way so that it can be carried with you for the entire life, not just one moment. It should be sustainable. The courage should be sustainable in its own way, right? So to maintain that courage throughout their life, it needs something. There is still a void. There's still something which can empower the courage, and that brings us to the fourth C, which is competency. Now, this is really important, my dear friends. Competency. Now, let's start first of all with the poetry itself. Now, try to read it as I'm saying it. Okay, so let yourself know that you can fly. Let yourself know that you can fly, or dwell over a shallow lake to cry. Receive more feedbacks, receive recognition, ask questions to ignite the inhibition, empower the courage, feel the competency. There you create a feat of excellency. Now, here we go, my dear friends, with the poet's point of view. Let yourself know that you can fly. You have to tell your own self that, yes, I am competent enough. You can fly. You can actually take the leap and fly of your own. or else the other way around is simply dwelling over a shallow lake, a lake which is not so deep, and you are simply hooking up to that, not so deep lake and crying over it so that it can be filled. So that's really not going to happen. That's really uncertain in its own way, right? So that when you feel competent, and all the leaders out there, I want you to emphasize to have a look on the word empower. Now, empower, I'm not talking about the management definition of empower, that, okay, by empowering others, people feel that, okay, let's get it done. Now I'm empowered, so let's get it done with the minimum resources, in the minimum time, the best output, get it done, just get it done. No, that is not what I'm talking about the competency and about the empowerment. I'm talking about the feeling empowerment, right? Feeling competency. And once you feel the competent, you feel that you are competent enough, what really happens, you try to go beyond the boundaries. You create a feat of excellency. And by excellency, I'm quoting that delivering more than expectation. That happens when you are self-motivated, my dear friends. And that self-motivation, it's been entirely linked with what I said earlier about the Alan Langer's quotation. When you perceive choice, you perceive motivation, right? And that motivation is hooked with the courage, and which is certainly into that. To empower that courage, we need to feel the competency, my dear friends. Now here it is, the most important thing, the middle two lines: receive more feedbacks, receive recognition, ask questions to ignite the inhibition. Now, how we can feel the empowered feeling, the feeling of competency? It's very simple: by receiving more feedbacks and giving recognition to others, right? And asking questions to ignite the inhibition. So that's how we roll, that's how we build the feeling of competency among ourselves, right? So now there is a challenge, all dear leaders. There's a question that what should be the questions that, that pumps, that fuels the feeling competency. Now for that, here I am, ask three simple questions. And if there is three yes, yes, you will feel the empowerment, you will feel the competency. So here we are with the first question: can you do it? Now, Albert Bandura named this question as self-efficacy. Believing that you can do it, believing that you have enough time, resource, knowledge, and training to get the things done. Believing that you can do it. Now, this requires, a sort of training among your own self, right? And once you believe that, yes, you can do it, you feel empowered, you feel competent. So yes, come on. I want you guys right here, right away to shoot the answer in the comment box as yes for this question particularly. Can you do it? Yes. Now that brings us to the second question. Will it work? Now, Albert Bandura named this as response efficacy. Believing that your process is going to work, believing that your actions and your behavior is certainly let you to get into the consequence that your mind has developed earlier. Will it work? By the way, that requires education. That requires you to get educated about the process. Now mind it, my dear friends, earlier I used the word training, now I am using education. So there must be some difference among it, right? There must be some difference between these two jargons, education and training, right? So let's try to find out, what might be the thing education is all about, and what is there with the training. So let me take a guess first of all. Probably it would have been much better if we will have the physical presence, but okay, I'll take the guess itself. So here I am in the primary school, I'm calling it education. I went into middle school, I'm calling it education. I went again into the higher secondary school, I call it education. I get into equipping ourselves with the higher education, with the graduations, but that time I am calling it as higher education. But when we get into corporate, when we get into rolling into work, into domain, into workplace, we call it training, right? So that's certainly not the case. There must be some more finite line among education and training, right? I'll shoot a question to you, right, and ask this question from your mind. Probably your mind is going to reflect with certain different answers, right? Ask your mind a question whether you need sex education or sex training. Now, yes, definitely your mind is going to reflect with different answers. So, what is really training? When you do behavior and receive feedbacks, that is training. While at the same time, when you equip yourself with the nitty gritties of the process, when you assist yourself with the information, remember that first point of information and data, when you equip yourself with a lot of information, that lets you to believe in the process. Mind the person out there in the red spot out there. He's believing in the process, that yes, it is certainly going to work for him, right? So that is the definition, and that is the difference between education and training. So okay, getting back into the flow, will it work? So yes, it is. Now comes the third question, which is really important. Is it worth it? Now, this is a motivational question, my dear friends. Is it worth it? That believing on your consequence, that whatever I'm going to do, that is certainly going to create a difference, that is certainly going to, work what I have actually, whatever consequence you have planned earlier, that is certainly going to be worth it. So 3 years to these things, can I do it? Will it work? And is it worth it? These 3 years simply adds up this, you can try it out as well. These three things, simply you feel the sense of competency among yourself when you answer yes as these three things, right? So that is there with feeling empowerment. You have to feel the competency so that it can fuel your courage, and when you have the courage, it simply ignites you. It simply lets you to perceive the choice for the consequence. So the link is entirely connected with the competency. But my dear friends, here's the challenge. you know it's really easy sometimes to give feedbacks to others, to make others feel competent, but when it comes to self, it is really critical, right? You can try it out as well. When you will sit alone and ask these three questions for any particular vision in your mind, you will certainly fall short, whether it is coming yes or whether it is coming no or what it is. But when you are actually making others feel competent, you will be good at it. You can try it out. And by the way, this is not based on common sense. These are based on the researches. So to make it happen, right, we need something to feel competent at every point of time, to make self, to understand the competency, to make self as being feeling empowered and feeling competent. We need something else so that it can assist us to believe that we are competent enough. And that is something which is the fifth C, the core of it. That brings us to our fifth C, which is community. Now, for that, I'm using a one line verse only. Poets usually use it to define the crux, the real gold, the diamond of any process. So, compassionate co-creation of community consistently capitalizes competency. Now, this is really important, my dear friends, that we have to have each other's back. We have to have people around us. We have to have the community so that we can mutually, relate with each other, and we can receive feedbacks. We can give recognitions so that the competency can be built among the community. So that is really important to have the compassionate co-creation among the community, because it consistently capitalizes the sense of community, the sense of competency, right? And it's been proven over the years, over the psychology and the researchers has proven that people with a higher sense of relatedness, with a sense of connection, they are much more happier. They much more feel motivated because they feel the sense of competency among themselves. So that is there. Now, Within the community also, there are two type of peoples. One who are independent and one who is interdependent on others. Now for that, I was trying to show a video, but that video was lagging. So for that, I have, to define the interdependability and independability among the community. I have I have a game for you guys, and I really want you guys to pay attention to the next 2 minutes, because this is really going to be joyful. You are really going to enjoy this. So there is a poem, the Cookie Thief. It's been written by Valerie Cox. So there are just two characters in the entire story, the poem. There's one guy and one woman. Now, for the next 2 minutes, when I'll be reciting the story, I want you guys to position yourself among any of these characters. Okay? So, pay attention to the next 2 minutes. This is really going to be exciting. Here we are. Here we are to start now. A woman was waiting at an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book at an airport shop, bought a bag of cookie, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that a man sitting beside her, as bold as he could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag in between, which she tried to ignore to avoid the scene. So she munched the cookie and watched the clock as the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I would have blackened his eye. With each cookie he took one too. And only when the last one was left, she wondered what he would do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half and he ate the other. She snatched it from his hand and thought, oh brother, this guy has some nerve and he's also rude. He didn't even show any gratitude. She had been never known when she had been so galled, and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at the thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat. Then she sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached her baggage, she gasped with surprise that there was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If mine are here, she moaned in despair that the others was his as he tried to share. Too late to apologize, she realized with grief that she was the rude one, the ingrate, the thief. So, where were you when I was reciting it? Were you feeling whose side you were? Whether you were feeling independent as a lady, or where you were feeling independent, whether you're feeling independent where the lady is, or you're feeling interdependent as the man is there, right? So the real challenge here is, we have to be independent, not independent, but we have to feel the concept of interdependability. Now, if you were in the side of independent, I wouldn't really blame you, because we have been raised in such a manner that first guys are lasting first, get your own stuffs done. I can do it alone. I don't need help. I can, climb mountains. I don't need help from anyone. So this is the very attitude from the childhood in our community. But with time, some people actually relate it. Some people actually, convert it into interdependability. But majority is stuck into the concept of being independent. That is the reason that it happens that we feel the concept of independability, not interdependability. And we as the leaders out there, we have a real challenge to build a community where we can be interdependent on each other, my dear friends. We have to have the back of each other. We have to, we should be, we have to create, as a leader, we have the challenge is to create a community where we should be humble enough to, receive the feedbacks, and the courage enough to give recognition to others. So this community, this interdependability community, it will build the competency among the people. So that brings us to the 5C model. The real challenge among the community, among the people out there, the leaders right now listening to it, the challenge here is to build an interdependent community among us, so that that community can capitalize this, competency, that capitalizes the sense of competency among individuals. And that competency simply empowers, it fuels the courage to perceive the choices of whether you want to categorize, whether you want to perceive the choice as a success seeker or a failure avoider. And once you perceive the choice, that creates the perception of consequence, that creates, that gives you a sense of autonomy. When you perceive choices of success seeker, that gives you a perception of consequence, which you do not really feel controlled. So that creates a perception of consequence, and that consequence, that positive consequence, that uncontrolled consequence, drives us to take decision, to discover our own paths, which sometimes people also call it as passion. So that brings me to the last slide. With all these 5C, community, competency, courage, choices, and consequences. These are the 5Cs. These are basically the values on which I founded a community 2 years back named as Leap Miles Ahead. So as the entire vision of this community, Leap Miles Ahead, the central idea, the vision behind its back is to tap the pain point, is to build a community where we can create a world of interdependability, my dear friends, not independability, where we can, where we can actually feel that empowerment, where, this interdependability, so that it can empower the sense of community, the sense of feeling empowered, which will fuel our, the entire courage, which lets us to perceive the choices and the consequences for driving the decisions of discovering your own path of in life, which is definitely going to cater the needs of individual, and it's going to build a world where people can get leap miles ahead in their lives. So thank you for being so a patient listener. I really enjoyed this. Over to you, Jhulan.
From the Let Us Talk It team to Satya Prakash, us giving you in poetry back, putting words on paper to express in part, thoughts from us right to your heart, that we loved the session.
Wow.
So, I mean, we just loved and wanted to say something in a better way, but absolute new way of looking at the very mundane things, the things that we know. Just loved the session. Thank you so much.
It's a privilege and it's a pleasure to be here, Julian, because I was really excited about this, to cater the community, as having said that, to build that community. So yeah, I was really excited, and I'll be very delighted to even cater the questions. So yeah, so
Oh, very well told, Julan. I think in a in a poetic way.
You can
That
please
was
do
nice.
it in Telugu also, and then with
Yeah, I will do that offline with him. So, but
no, even Satya.
yeah, it's very, yeah, it's a very, very nice, Satya, hearing your thoughts and how you connected all the dots. So, thank you so much. It was exciting to hear.
thank you for for your these words are really a fuel to empower my courage again. So that's somewhere related to discovering my own path.
Absolutely. And before asking the question, one thing that you just, captured me at the very first line when you said that I had all these exams set from tomorrow, and still you did not cancel this. Webinar. That is something which related so directly. Whenever there is something important, there will be 50 things on that particular around that date itself. And when you talk about and you live to what you talk, it's an instant inspiration, at least for me. So thank you for that. And yes, do we have any questions? Yeah, okay. Suvrita says, thank you so much, Satya Prakash, for the session. Thank you so much, entire team. Yes, it's any other question, feedback, comments? Please unmute and you can talk.
Hi team, thank you so much. Hi Satya Prakash, thank you so much for this session. It was really inspiring, and as I always follow like videos like you and Let Us Talk It team as well. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Thank you for taking out time and attending the session.
So, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, any other question? While you're still thinking on the question, just wanted to let you know that we have our webinars every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from 12 to 1 p.m. EST, and also on Saturday, from 4 to 5 p.m. EST. So we have this Saturday, our books. The topic is on books, the ones that we love and why we love, and a wide range of youth will be participating. So we would definitely encourage parents and youth both to join the session, take good things from there, and you can even participate on and tell something from your side as well. So it's for the youth. Please do join and encourage our youth and get encouraged as well. So that will be from 4 to 5 p.m. EST this Saturday. And next week again, from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have our regular professional webinars from 12 to 1 p.m. EST. Any other question?
Okay, so I would be delighted to have different point of view as well, because that always gives a sense of direction of viewing things from the other's angle as well. So I would love to enjoy some other perspectives as well towards the defining your own path or discovering your own path.
Absolutely. I think that helps us to grow as well. So, Satya, if I...
I would also love to enjoy some other perspectives.
Is there Avinash? You wanted to say anything? I think you got unmuted.
Hello.
Yes, Avinash, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Dr. Avinash Gupta.
Hi, Doctor.
I congratulate Satya for delivering such a informative lecture. Yeah, and the content was very nice. The delivery of the lecture was so nice. And at this age of, I'm 51, still love to learn so many things from the lecture of Satya. Again, congratulate you. Thank you.
That's a great comment, Dr. Avinash. At the it doesn't matter whatever age it is. I think it's always we'll be learning. Great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Gupta, for your feedback. It always encourages us. It encourages, I think, speakers like Satya. And yes, Satya, if I can ask you one question, what motivates you? What is that one thing that you feel that, you balance out pretty good? And if you can explain how, even if you can give a practical, example, that would be great.
Okay. So, I would say that the answer lies in your question itself. that motivating others actually motivates me in each and every aspect, because as having said that, the community that I have founded a couple of years back, Leap My said, the entire vision is to motivate people, is to drive that interdependability. So that requires to motivate others, right? So once I feel the sense of connectedness with others, it gives me a space to enjoy it, and then mutually connect, as Dr. Gupta said, that it's a mutual learning session, right? So somewhere down the line, this is a throwback motivation to me as well. Yet at the same time, it's a delivering things which can actually ignite others as well, right? So this feeling, feeling empowering, not individually, not as an independent guy, but as an interdependent person within a community. This gives me a drive of motivation, and this is really my fuel to I would say to take the things forward. And I'm really excited about these things, empowering people. So that is one thing I would say which actually motivates me in a way.
Yeah, definitely. I think Let Us Talk It was founded with the same belief, where we wanted to create an informed and empowered community, as we always say. So that will elevate all of us into a another phase, which we know we can't even imagine if all the hands are together and synergies work together. Yeah, I agree.
Hi, Prakash. This is Madhvi. I have a question and maybe an answer also. Um, Basically, is it possible for you to have this kind of session for kids and teenagers who can also listen into this? Um, and my answer is it's a request because I'm thinking this will be a very good motivational speak for the kids, and so please feel free to correct me or give me an answer.
Basically, you have to do it, Satya. That's what I get it from Madhavi.
No, yeah, basically, I'm thinking that this will help kids also, especially
Absolutely, a
kids who
wonderful
are
idea. Yeah.
yeah, going into college very soon, or high school kids and teenage kids who are growing up in US. They will get to know some basics about life, is my thought.
True, Madhu, true. I mean, that's the entire idea. As Shini also said, that building a community, and this is where we actually, define the interrelatedness, right? And again, getting back to that particular, pain point, because everything starts with that, that keyword, that interdependability, and that's what we are creating right now, right here. The sense of interdependability, right? There's a community. Let us talk it, right? That is doing in its own way, creating that synergy. I would emphasize on the word synergy used by Srini. That's a really powerful word in its own way. So this is the synergy thing among the community. And what I really believe, one thing, any place or any brand or any community is not really made by big names. It is made by the people involved in it, right? So people like the faces behind Let Us Talk It, right? These are the people who actually induce that synergy sync among the community. So that is really important, that is really essential in its own way. So yes, definitely, I mean, Madhu, I would be more than happy to do it and cater the needs of the society. And definitely, I mean, there's no second thought about it.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you.
Firstly,
Yeah.
I am Priyanshu Gupta speaking. I would really like to congratulate the speaker. Bravo on the whole webinar. It was really phenomenal. And I would really like to ask a question. Like Satya said, that everyone should be a success seeker, not the failure avoider. So I'd really like to know, like, how to turn those things around.
Sure. So thank you so much, first of all, Priyanshu, for a question like this, which is definitely going to give a bit of more clarity. So let me go into the slide first, right? If I can just shuffle around. Okay, leave it. So how you will actually categorize as a success seeker, right? It entire thing happens with the first C, if you will mind it. right? It's all about, the decisions you are going to make, right? And that, again, that link is subjected into different levels, right? Consequences, then
Yes.
the choices you perceive, right? And I give you an example. When you go to class, how you categorize it. Mind me if you don't, it would be personal, but are you student or are you working professional?
Yes, I am a student. Actually, I am currently a undergrad student.
That's great. That's great to know. Now, Priyanshu, when you are going to school, what is your first thing which pops up in your head? I'll again repeat the same example. Whether, whether, let's say it's a class of mathematics, or
Mhm.
something about psychology itself. Okay, so there must be
Yeah.
some person who are, actually willing to perceive that lecture as a
Yes.
requirement. When you take
Yeah.
things as
True.
a requirement, the loop of requirement, it categorizes yourself as a failure avoider, not a success seeker. Because then you
Okay.
will, then at that point of time, you will feel controlled by your consequences. The consequence, the
Mhm.
vision is clear that, okay, by having that lecture, probably I'll be, equipping myself with a good knowledge or whatever may be the positive consequence. But then it's not ignited from your own self, right? You are doing it as a requirement. So that, and that particular point, you will feel the sense of control within your consequences. So that is a real
Mhm.
challenge, and that is really a big challenge, definitely. Otherwise, probably everyone would have become Bill Gates, right? So that
Yeah.
is the
Correct.
real challenge, where we have to uh, take things as an opportunity, not as a requirement. Because there, the 1% criteria, the I would say the cream of the, word, that's been
Mhm.
differentiated from that, the separation point. So I hope, I've catered your question, and I will love to have, a more chat on this, maybe offline, or
Thank you so much, Satya. Like it was really helpful. Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you.
Yes, any more questions, comments? And definitely, we cannot thank Bandhu enough for that, thinking on those lines, that you can relate to the youth much better. And we will definitely have a separate session, and you cannot go back because, you have committed here. So, but definitely
Yeah,
we'll.
yeah. Please be in touch, Julian, with him and make it happen.
Absolutely. Thank you for suggesting that. Sometimes we don't think in those lines, and
Yeah,
these suggestions do help. And Satya will definitely, check with you after your exams for sure. And yes, just to let you know, everyone, like next week, again, we have on Tuesday a topic on leadership. And on Wednesday, we have data science in business application, a very important topic these days. And then on Thursday, we'll have how to know your passion. So that will be an exciting topic as well for next week. And yes, any question from YouTube, Facebook, Vamshi?
No questions, but there are a lot of comments, positive comments,
A lot of
compliments and
positive
all.
comments.
So
Okay.
Yeah, so the
uh,
poetry got converted into passion already. So, and yeah, Julian, I think you can tell about this weekend's youth session as well. I think on Saturday, right?
Yeah, I already said, but I can repeat
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So please, everyone, do join us for this Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. EST for our youth session, Let Us Talk It Youth series, where youth will be talking about books, how they are important, why they should read, how people who read, then they can just, put in their thoughts. Those who do not read, why they should read, they will have an perspective also. So please join in. The kids have worked very hard, and we would love your support, and if you can give your feedback as well. So yeah, and we also do have our yoga sessions every Wednesday and Sunday. Wednesday from 9 to 10 p.m. EST, and on Sundays from 10 to 11 a.m. EST. And for any information about Let Us Talk It, please email us at webinar@letustalkit.com. So if there are no more questions and full of positive
I
comments.
have just one more comment. So yeah, maybe Satya, we can talk offline as well on this. But I mean, because all of us are here, I just want to add to one point. Like, Einstein once said that the society is not bad because of the bad people, but the good people who didn't do anything about it. Something like that. So basically, always, even if we say it's relatively, bad and good are relative terms. Actually, there is no abstract good and bad, something like that. So always, there are kind of, the two sets of people. One set of people, who are always responsible citizens and who want to play a responsible role in the society, and they want to give back to the society, and they want to enrich the lives around them with a lot of values. And then there are people who do not care, or who do not even who do not care. That's also okay. But there are people who, on the other side, the third category, which try to damage and try to infuse negativity. So the role of the so-called relatively good people is so important, because I always feel that that is the good is a minority in the society. So there is a greater need for the good to come together and join hands and empower themselves and create a strong branding for themselves, to do at least the things that that we think collectively as good. So I feel that that's a very, very challenging task at any point of time given in the society, because there are so many factors and there are so many ideologies, philosophies, religions and sects and all. So trying to agree at something, how many people can agree at something very basic, as something which is of a lot of common sense. Somehow I feel, yeah, that's I will end there. So I have more thoughts, but I will end there for now. But so my question to you is, how to really get all these good people, so-called good people, relatively good people together, and then empower more and more. And the need also, I mean, they may not even know until they're impacted one day by the other category, that, oh, I'm so weak in this society. When I stand out, we are only a few, very less numbers. These people are good people, are very in less numbers. So yeah.
So
Go ahead,
yeah,
Satya.
definitely that is there. But I mean, this is coming from my rational. That might be true, that might not be true. But since I am having the opportunity right here, so I'll put it forward. So I used a quote from Ralph Waldo. It said that once you make a decision, the entire universe conspires to make it happen. Right. So I accept with your point, but I partially diverge it as well. That we can do our stuff. What we can control, right? People out there, how many are bad, how many are not good, that's certainly beyond our control, right? So what we can do in our hand is to make the decision to make or build that community, right? Best at our own potential, not necessarily that I have to change the world. First of all, let's start changing let's start by changing our own self first of all, because the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. There are people like Jay Shetty, Gary Vee, a lot of people out there, right? So how this actually started, once they started walking, right, once they made the decision to create a difference among their own community, among their own self. And once people have seen that, okay, this is a path where people are actually succeeding, then they simply join. I'll try to give you an example from, Mahatma Gandhi. So what really happened? He started Dandi March alone, right? And that too, walking alone across the nation, right? But people have seen that, yes, this truth or this potential has the power to, it's a torch bearer. And then people really joined it, and not even in the masses, the entire nation stood behind that man. So that's what I feel, that what we can do at our best is, we can make our own decisions and let people perceive their own choices, because we are no one to actually, cater that or counter that. I definitely agree with you that, the masses don't really give importance to what is really going on, what is not. But what we can do at our best potential is to, cater the things which are in our control, not what is beyond our control. So once we'll make that decision, once we'll put the actions, and once we believe that it's worth it, getting back to the consequence, the third question inside the competency, that it is worth it doing, once we believe in our process and the consequence, definitely the universe helps to conspire to make it happen. So that's what I believe. Over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah. Also, in the offline, I will also ask on various other questions like that, including the ones, what is that one thing that a greater number of people could agree at. I always feel that it is very hard to find a group of people agreeing at one thing. I mean, it seems so easy, but even agreeing at a common thing or a small thing, whatever it is, by larger number of masses, what is that they agree at? I feel, those are the things that are the drivers for more synergies, and marching forward for the vision together. Anyway, that's a very interesting conversation. I really like your enthusiasm and the way that you're explaining, and because you feel it and you're explaining, it is not just like you're reading it out. So that makes a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. And there's one more. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
No, Satya, go ahead. You are the guest speaker.
Yeah. So it's been rightly said by Shane. So there's a challenge, where people are, I mean, for example, let's say by different opinion, it's simply, the differentiation point among ourselves, right? So everyone, definitely, I completely agree to your point that each and every person is different in its own way. Even the fingerprints in our hand, it's not matching. The 10 fingerprints are entirely different, right? So when we are talking about mindset, about perception, it's going to be certainly a lot different. So we as the future leaders should definitely, find that fine line, the balance between where we can, work along and build a community. Definitely, I mean, plus one to the thoughts, by Ishini. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Let Us Talk It actually happened because of these acceptance. When it was it was just an idea that came in a BDM call, and then the idea was given. Srini just accepted, started off, just did it, and I don't know how many people we have reached out to. So yes, he doesn't just talk; he just walks the talk. Totally, I can say from experience. Yeah. So yeah, if there are no more questions, then I think it was a wonderful session, Satya. Absolute pleasure to have you, and we hope and we absolutely know that you will be in another session for the youth. And yes, thank you so much. And thank you all the attendees for joining in, being interactive, and making this session so special. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
A huge gratitude from my end to each and everyone present there. Thank you.
Thank you.